You want to intro it?
Sure. Hello, welcome. I'm Jeff Megan,
David Tobin.
and thank you for joining us. We are going to talk about collaboration in the grander scheme of things, and also our specific collaboration.
Yeah, and I think we're going to touch today, on why do it anyway?
Why?
Yeah, why?
Yeah.
And then talk about how we do it and what works. And no, let's just stick with what works. And then but delve into that a little bit more. And then we're going to talk about other collaborations because we're constantly collaborating with other people.
Everything's a collaboration.
Yeah. So let's talk about why. Jeffrey, why do you collaborate?
Why do I collaborate? I grew up listening to all kinds of music and always had the desire of wanting to make all kinds of music.
Mm-hmm.
I remember sitting listening in headphones and I'd listening to classical music or listening to Dave Brubeck or, Genesis or, whatever the things that inspired me when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make it all. And the only way that I can do that is to collaborate with other people. So that opens up many different genres that I couldn't obviously work in. Now I can have great ideas about all these things, but need other people to make it happen.
Who was your first collaborator? Who did you work with?
The first time I collaborated was this guy named Wally Swatley in the city. Wally's fantastic. He's a great writer, an amazing singer. This was in our early 20s, and we wrote a lot of songs together. And we got signed to an independent label, and made an album. It was rough going, We just ended up going our separate ways. And then I started writing music for another company in Chicago, collaborating with the people there, the producers there.
Yeah.
They would, I don't know if you know about this, but they would send me their tracks, or I would go to their studios and they'd give me their tracks. They had a bunch of hits. This is late 90s, mid 90s. And then I would write songs over their tracks. And then after that, then I got involved with Heavy Hitters Music in LA, and I started collaborating with the people around me, my friend John Geis, who we've done some stuff with, Mark Presley. These were guys that I was kind of playing in a band with at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And we started to write music for, I needed their help to play, because I'm not a guitarist. I don't do anything really well. So I need, there you go. So I always need people to collaborate with to make me sound better. So, but I needed guitar-based stuff, so I asked them to join in. So that was writing with them, and that got me to Brad Hatfield, and Brad and I, and then Gay Tolan Hatfield, Brad's wife. The three of us have written a lot of stuff together through the years. I met them through Heavy Hitters. We actually, we won the Emmy together in 2022. We talked about that in the previous episode. And then that led me to this, And so I still collaborate with other people, but obviously this is the main collaboration. This is our full-time job. The why is all those reasons, just because I needed to be able to do different stuff and write different kinds of music. I do believe also that every time you collaborate with a new person, you double your network. So
That's interesting.
Yeah, because everyone wants to sell their music, right? So, you write a song with Brad Hatfield, now you're part of Brad's network, and he's going to try and sell that music to all his people. And that goes for anyone you work with, right? And then just in general, I think the sum of the parts are better. You get a better product.
I agree. I
Yes.
think that's really important. I mean, before we collaborated, I think I'd had 2 collaborations. I had much less experience of it than you.
Mm-hmm.
What did I do? I collaborated, as I mentioned in a previous episode, I collaborated with my great friend Gil Linton. We wrote a musical together. We wrote the musical of Houdini, and we wrote that first.
So how was it that Gil was doing lyrics and you were doing...
Yeah, I mean, Gil, it wasn't just lyrics. I mean, Gil...
Was he doing melody too?
Wrote but I mean, this was a musical, so there was a whole...
the book.
He'd written the book.
Yeah, okay.
And then we argued endlessly about the book, but we'd been friends for, since,
A long time.
forever. Yeah. And then we rewrote that for an older age group. We had sort of 15 to 18-year-olds who performed this, and it was on in theatre. And so I'd had that area of collaboration, but it wasn't with another musician.
Mm-hmm.
But then I did collaborate with somebody who I know that you know from Heavy Hitters. I collaborated with Crit Harmon.
Crit. Oh, Crit, yes.
And Crit out of Boston.
Yes.
And we wrote a couple of albums we did for Heavy Hitters.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
And this was all stuff where Crit then wrote some amazing lyrics that I wrote music for, and we put a couple of albums out, and that was a whole different experience because Crit's also obviously a great musician, but on that gig he was a lyricist.
He's a great writer, absolutely.
Yeah. So we'd done that, but then when we came together to write, it was the first time that I really I put any thought into, so who does what, and how does it even work, practically, and this moves us on smoothly.
Wow,
to
what a transition.
Our collaboration. Let's talk about who does what. I mean, we can talk over the years about how that's morphed, but how does it work? If you were going to explain it, who does what?
It depends on what kind of music we're doing, certainly. If we're writing songs, generally I will write something and then ship it off to you, and I'll top line it with lyrics and maybe just drums or a bass line, and then I send it to you, and then you actually make it into something. You chords, maybe you change the melody around, and then
and sometimes it can be really fully formed, and sometimes you've just sent me a little voice note.
Just a voice memo, yeah.
What do we do with this?
Yeah.
And so it starts.
And then that starts. So, but everything, I mean, because we produce everything so fully, that is, that's the first part. The writing is actually the easiest and shortest part, I think, of the process, because then we go on to, in many cases, the arranging and then orchestrating, where we might work with someone else.
Yeah.
And then there's putting the dots on the page, which I know very little about. David.
Well, I think you're underselling yourself. I think, but when we met, had you ever used computers?
Sibelius? No.
We should say we're talking here about a notation package for anybody that is, I can't
program,
imagine
yeah.
many, but a notation program. But you'd not used any of that. But you did read music?
I read music, I understand music, but I'm not going to sight read anything. And
no.
There's something with my vision that just the lines of the staff just doesn't work very well. So,
didn't know that.
But yes, if I have time to slowly go through things and I understand the music, and I can, as you know, I can tweak something very easily, but I can't create it. So there's on the page.
On page. So that tends to be my area of stuff. So once we get to the orchestration element of something, I'm an orchestrator, so that will be my end. But also, we'll tweak. I mean, you're a much more experienced lyricist than I am, but we'll still discuss lyrics and tweak lyrics. But we came from a love of song together, so
yeah, absolutely.
I think if I were talking about, I'm going to go back a stage here because I missed something when we talked about why collaborate. We're talking about it now, but we haven't made it overt. There's a lot to do.
Oh, yeah.
In any production, there's just so much to do.
Yeah.
It can be solitary. If you try and do it by yourself, you're sitting for long hours. There's nobody to bounce ideas off. Some people like that. I know writers who just don't
want to work with anyone.
I don't want to do that. But that, talking to somebody, having a physical conversation. I mean, we're not in the same room. 99% of our collaboration is over the internet because of geography.
Right.
But also, there's a lot to do, and if you want it to be a quality product, it's just almost impossible.
Yeah. Well, I find I'm consistently amazed with your skills as far as music. I mean, you have perfect pitch, right? And just the way watching you arrange things and orchestrate chords. I mean, you look at a whole orchestra and be like, okay, well, you're fiddling around with the notes and all the strings, and then adding the brass and where they should sit, and the voicings, and that just blows my mind. And just how easily that comes to you. It's a language I don't speak. I wish I spoke, and that is one of my favorite things about our collaboration.
But it is interesting. I think you're underselling yourself, because I think you do speak that language, but you don't speak it visually. Because
Yes,
I know
yes,
that
yes.
you'll listen to an orchestral chord, because we work on a lot of orchestral music,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll hear it and say, the brass isn't sitting quite how it
Right.
should
Yeah.
sit."
Yeah. Or can we make the violas not right? Or
So you do,
I can hear it.
but you
Yes.
hear it. So for you, that's an oral thing,
Mm-hmm.
and for me, because of the way that I learn, it's oral, but it's a visual.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
Yeah.
visual thing. But I think that also touches on why our collaboration is successful.
Mm-hmm.
Is what do you want out of a collaborator? And for me, I'll start with that.
Mhm.
I want somebody that does what I don't.
Don't do. Absolutely.
Because what's the point?
Absolutely.
If I find another person who does what I do, we might have a great time, but
Mhm.
but ultimately, we can't fill in the circle.
Yeah. It's so funny because you see people when they talk about people they've collaborated with, and I would sometimes think to myself, well, that's an interesting pairing because you guys do the exact same thing. So how does that work?
And it might work because
It might work, yeah.
Well, one of the things is you've got to find somebody that doesn't piss you off. And
Absolutely.
I'm still looking, but no, but you know what I mean is that you're going to spend a lot of hours
Yeah.
talking to somebody. and
Absolutely,
You've got to have
Well,
that.
yeah. The hardest thing is to give in to someone else's ideas when you might have ideas as well. Relinquishing ownership in something to a collaborator is a learned skill. But the most important skill when it comes to collaborating, right?
You should talk about that story. I'll start this off, but you should take this up.
Yeah.
We made, I guess this would be a dozen years ago, we made a little video at each end of our, because we're on I don't know, it wasn't Zoom then, whatever it would have been.
Whatever,
We were
yeah.
doing a video, and we said, wouldn't it be fun if you videoed you sending something off and me opening it up, and then you doing the other thing about seeing
what you do to it, and
so tell this story.
So I wrote this piece of music, top-lined it, wrote the lyrics and everything, and then sent it off to you
With some instructions on what you wanted.
with some instructions. Yes,
It was a little confusing. I'm going to hold my...
the crux of it is we use the wrong temp. We always have a temp like, all right, well, this is supposed to be kind of like,
What's a temp, by the way?
A temp is a piece of music that you're using as for inspiration, if you will.
Okay.
So maybe it was like, I don't know, it was some Sinatra-y kind of thing, right? It was supposed to be swinging, I think.
Yeah. remember.
And you were thinking it was a totally different song. Like it was a ballad. I mean, it was like apples and oranges, right?
Yeah.
And so I sent it to you, and we videotaped our expressions, and it was so funny because, and I'm all proud. I'm like, wow, this is a pretty badass thing I'm going to send him. And then he said,
He's like, what the fuck is this?
and he's like, literally, his face is like, well, I don't get it. I mean, it was like so.
So yeah, I think I
Then
slowed
I
it
did
down
the
by
same
double.
thing.
Yeah.
You sent it back to me, and it was like, this is really jacked up. This is not right. And what is he thinking? I don't. Yeah. So that was the one time we tried to
I never did that
video
again.
our process.
Yeah.
And it was a huge ball of flame.
Yeah. Because actually, you are right. I mean, taking the humor out of it for a second, actually, you are dealing still with a human being and their emotional. You don't want to look at something from somebody and go, well, it's just
This is really
shit.
bad. Can we
Yeah.
try something else? Yeah.
So I'm constantly aware, talking for myself,
Mm-hmm.
that if you send me something and it's not working for me, I need to find a way to either express that without firstly being rude,
Mm-hmm.
or just not just putting your idea down because it's not my idea.
Sure.
you know?
I know that. I mean, I hope you don't struggle about that anymore, and I don't think you do, because I was thinking, even we're working on a big band project right now, and I know that I sent you some ideas, and you were like, this isn't working for me.
No,
And was
but I
like,
can
yeah, that's
tell you,
cool.
it took me more than 10 years to
Yeah.
be comfortable to say to you, I don't think this is the right idea for this project.
Sure.
Because you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings.
No, absolutely, yeah.
But I think I know in my heart when I hear something, fairly instantaneously that I hear it,
Mm-hmm.
immediately I either like it or I don't.
Yes, you go, okay, yeah, this could be something.
And there have been times when I've taken things that I didn't particularly, they weren't hitting for me,
Mm-hmm.
but I've thought, well, but Jeff likes it, so I'll work on it.
Yeah,
But I still think I've never put in my best.
yeah.
work on that because it just wasn't. And that must be the other way around. You'll hear an arrangement and think,
Yeah, it's not doing it for me so much. Yeah, exactly. And I think, I mean, now we've been doing it for so long, I think it's a lot easier. But yes, it used to be, kid gloves and,
But we should move that on then to other collaborations, because we can then talk about how you deal with other collaborators and their moods. But let's talk about the types of collaborations we do with other people, because there are a lot. Just to remind you, we should include both musical collaborations and collaborators with directors and producers, and because there are all manners. Well, let's start with that. What about the language of talking to other people that you don't?
You mean like a producer or a director?
Sure. Okay, so we're working on a TV show, and you.
And we talked about those are collaborations where we are hired, right?
As opposed
to being an equal.
Yeah.
And I think there's a difference there. Obviously, I still believe it's a collaboration, but you just don't maybe have all the power or weight that you would in just an equal thing. If someone's not paying you, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think that depends on whether you've worked with them before and how honest you can be,
absolutely,
and how well you know them.
Well, that's true, yeah. So, I mean, with all of those relationships, I think presuming that everyone gets along and we're all in it for the right reasons and want the best product, I think the hardest part is just learning each other's languages. We all hear things, we all see things, we all experience life with a different vocabulary attached to it, right? And so when someone really wants to comment on a piece of music, they might use comparisons or analogies that you just don't get, right? How many times have you, well, it needs to be brighter, or it needs to be happier, or, and you start using words that aren't musical terms to describe.
But I don't know about you, but I try and, unless a director is also a musician, I actively want them to avoid using musical language. I don't want them to use musical, because I don't want to say they're not going to use it appropriately, because it may be appropriate in their head.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
But I've had times where we were working on a feature film and somebody said, could you make it bluesy? Now, what they meant by that was sadder. It wasn't a musical analogy, but they'd used what they thought they were trying to be helpful and use musical terminology, and it definitely isn't helpful.
Yeah.
And I'm constantly bringing back to pacing, or talk to me in film language. Talk to me in trying to find commonality.
Yes.
Of genre feel of
just terminology.
Yeah. Of how do you want it to make the audience feel? What do you want from this? How fast do you want it to be? How
it really comes down to emotions. Yeah.
Emotion.
Yeah.
Use emotional language.
Even more specifically, I think when you hit the mark on something and you're close, that's when it gets even more difficult to fine tune, because that's when the language has to be even more specific.
Yeah.
And I find that, can be a lengthier process, just trying to really hone in.
And we're going to,
what are you looking for here?
We're going to delve deeper, and I think we're probably going to do a whole thing all about communication and language and those things. So let's talk about collaborations with other musicians. What about with other writers? Collaborations.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't always work, and I think that you have to be willing to accept that. That
you might dip your toe in, and
it's not feeling right. And I think in my life, most of those times, I've gotten to the end of the project, or the song, or whatever it is we're working on together, and I didn't worry so much about whether it was a great product at the end. I just kind of wanted to get to the end.
I want to get out of Dodge.
And we finished.
It's been great.
Real work to do.
Yeah.
So and I think that's okay to give yourself the space that this doesn't have to work all the time.
Well, what about when we're working together but with another third?
For us, when we were working with a third person. Okay, yes, because we've worked with so many writers. I'm trying to think. Tim Garland, Paul Clarvis. I mean, we've done. Those names probably won't mean much to anyone, but they mean a lot to us. So look them up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and sometimes we're writing as three writers, and sometimes we're collaborating with people who are just a specialist in a certain area.
Well, even yes, for David and I, when we do, when we need a specialist, say like a big band arranger, we cut them in as a writer. We're not just, it's not just as an orchestrator that we're.
Yeah, so there's a differential there. Just to be clear here, that we're cutting them in terms of how people are making their money.
Mm-hmm.
We're cutting them in as a writer, but their role on that, because it means that they then earn what we earn. So it's a genuine three-way thing.
Yeah.
But in terms of what we're asking them to do, we're not asking them to comment on necessarily on the lyric or on how we've done it, and the arrangement that I'll have given them can be fairly
robust.
It's robust arrangement
Mm-hmm.
already.
Yeah.
But it's still asking them to do something that I couldn't.
Right.
But in terms of how you collaborate with them and how that feels emotionally and process.
Yeah. I don't know that I have a lot to say about it. It's always felt very natural when we work with these other people, and I feel like the most important part in a collaboration is to let people be free to be themselves, and I almost just try and fit in where I can,
Yeah.
because I don't have to be the star. I just want to be a part of it,
I think certainly dealing with other arrangers and orchestrators, I probably have more time spent with them because we'll be discussing
with the arrangers and absolutely, yeah,
the arrangers and giving them a brief of specifically what we're looking for.
Right.
But then also finding their language, and just as human beings, how do they communicate?
Well, that's one of your skills, and one of the best parts about our collaboration is that in those situations, you and I will write something, and then you will take it upon yourself, which is really because it's beyond me to do it, right? Once we start talking about dots on a page, that's your area. So you work with them to pull this whole thing together, but are always so generous. And you play everything and ask my opinion about everything and listen to my opinion about everything.
That's a key.
Absolutely,
that's a key.
Because I know that if I said, well, this isn't working for me, you'd be like, okay, well, let's fix it. Let's do it.
Let's do something else.
Yes. So that's really important.
But I think we should also talk about collaborations with players because, it's interesting. I can't imagine how many musicians, if we began to list how many musicians we've worked
hundreds
with.
Hundreds and hundreds, yeah.
Oh, you'd be into the thousands easily of musicians once you start talking symphony orchestras
maybe.
And there's a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting thing is nobody does it the same way. Everybody does it differently.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks differently. Everybody emotionally does it differently. And do you find it easy if we're going to work with a new musician?
Yeah.
Not in a large ensemble setting because you may not even interact with that person particularly. But
I don't speak the language of music. I don't speak that other one either. Very well. So I'm always a little intimidated to have someone in, and they start asking me questions, really specific, like theory questions about how something should be done, and I'm like, oh, I don't know. So I end up just singing it to them, or So I try and give people a lot of leeway in their performance, and honestly, that's why you're having a live musician playing your stuff in the first place, right? Is to bring whatever they can bring to the music because of who they are. I think you tend to use, and I'm sure we're not the only people who do this, but you tend to fall into a pattern of who you use, the guitarist you're going to call, the sax player you're going to call, or the people you're comfortable with working because you know their point of view, and you know.
And it could be because they're great, but it also could be because of the fact that it's easy to work with them.
Absolutely.
And they're great.
Yeah.
So the human interaction of it.
Yeah.
I think you are well selling yourself short personally.
I knew you were going to say that.
Only because it doesn't matter whether you sing it to them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need to tell them how to bow something.
Yeah.
They need to know what do you want. And it doesn't matter how you tell them what you want. You get across. I've been in a room where you have indicated to a yodeler how you want him to yodel. I genuinely have. And he knows you don't have to be a world yodeling champion to do that.
Yeah.
You got across what you wanted, but because you're always generous with the language and the way that you would express that to them, and they don't do it, and you go, well, that was a pile of, okay. I'm sure
thanks for coming in.
Anyway, I've got the time. But because of that,
Uh-huh.
you are a producer, and because you're a
Well,
producer,
thank
you can get that performance from them. But equally, a couple of weeks ago, we were on a session remotely with a really world famous drummer, but you were still ding. You were still saying, "Hold on, could we just change the way that would
singing him,
sound?" And
yeah.
you were singing him lines and asking him to play. He knew exactly what you wanted, but you were obviously a drummer as well, if you've not mentioned that.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
a percussionist. But you were able to, in a way that I wouldn't know how to say to him, "Could you change the sound of that snare? Could you use a different thing here?"
Yeah.
You were able to ask that in such a way that you get what you want, but also the way that you ask is personable, and
Well,
but
thank
you get
you very much.
you get there.
Yeah. I do. I know that about myself as well, and I do. I thank you for saying that. I feel like the very least you should be to everyone you work with is kind and generous, and so it's just nice to use those kind of words, because I think that if there's anything, I don't even care about talent. If we walk away from any situation, I want people to go, yeah, and for both of us, those guys are nice guys. I like to work with them.
It's incredibly important.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to tell a story, but we've been in situations, and you'll know what I mean, where we've been on sessions and people have not been that way.
Yeah.
And I'll never work with them again.
Yeah.
I think an impolite way of putting it is having a no assholes policy.
Mm-hmm.
There are so many talented musicians and people that you can work with, and there's no need. Just no need for
Absolutely.
it. And we've all been in those situations, and I get it, it's stressful, and there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
But still no need.
Totally agree.
And
Yes.
and actually I think that the other thing for me is when I'm collaborating with players, it's finding a way to get across to them directly what we want in a way that you're not then just saying, "Look, I'll tell you how to play your instrument." I'm not,
Absolutely.
mollycoddling. But equally, I know you're saying you want the latitude of what they do,
Yes.
but they still need.
The structure. We have to walk out with what we want. Yes.
Yeah. So if I were, this is going to sound preachy now, but if I were giving guidance to somebody about, when you're working with musicians, the first thing I would say is, it doesn't matter how much you prep, it won't be enough. You need to know what you want. You need to give them something. Nobody will say, "Guy was an arse. He came in over prepared." That's not a thing. Yeah. So you can give somebody, and we do. I mean, we're working on a project now where we've been working with people, and we're asking them to be able to play freely and solo and do things. We're still writing things out. We're still giving them something that looks professional. They get that sense that
This is a guide.
they know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then we're saying, okay, here's a specific, and can you give us a less specific of your own? But we always get those comments where people say, just thank you for giving us enough information to be able to give you what you need. I understand what you want. I think that's important.
Absolutely, yeah. Especially when it comes to musicians, I think that everyone is self-conscious about, even professionals, that walk in. They may be nervous. It's a new situation. You may be working with new people, and I think that is a very important and challenging thing sometimes to maintain that. You don't want the tension, and things can very quickly get really tense. When things don't start going the right way.
I mean, especially in ensemble situations, we've been in positions where the clock is ticking and there's a clock on the back of the wall, and if you said to people, "Come on, you could definitely do this better," that's just not, the room would just
absolutely
dive.
just the energy just gets sucked out, and it just immediately gets so tense. Yeah, those are really memorable sessions when that kind of stuff happens.
Yeah, I can remember.
But they are very pleasing. And I take no credit. I'm going to name drop Andrew Sunnix, who is probably one of the best producers we've ever worked with, if not the best, because he is just so kind and understands people and is generous, and and so when those tense
And musicians
situations
want to
come
work
up-
for him.
absolutely,
Because they know that he knows what he's talking about. We'll get him on here one day.
We will,
It might
yeah.
take a little arm tweak.
yes,
But I can remember one session we did with Andrew where we had written 7 pieces to record with a symphony orchestra in 3 hours, which is, by the way, Audio Network, that is insane. But anyway, and we had some time issues all the way through, and we got 6 done, and there were 3 minutes left. And this will go also to the preparation of working. And I'm also going to name drop somebody else. I'm going to name drop Jill Streeter.
absolutely.
And Jill is the person who runs a music preparation organization.
Just
Global
the end
Music
credits for
Services.
most movies
Yeah.
have her name on the end of it.
And it is an unsung job, but without Jill's help of making sure that everything on paper is pristine, it meant that we got to 3 minutes to go, and we gave music to, I mean, there must have been
There was
75.
60 yeah, it was a full orchestra. Abbey
And-
Road 2.
Yep.
Abbey Road 1.
It was one, and you've got 3 minutes, and you are talking about having beautifully prepared music that where we've worked with other orchestrators as well. Actually, no,
And they-
we did that ourselves.
Yeah.
But
The crux of this story is
yes, is that
They
you
played
say
it
go,
once.
sight read it. It was once.
One
Played
time?
it once
One time.
because we only had 3 minutes, and it was 3 minutes long. They sight read it.
And it was beautiful.
It was perfect.
We hear it all the time, all over.
We laughed, and it's used.
Yeah.
It's used.
That's also the caliber of musicians as well as just.
Well, that's the other thing about
Yeah.
collaborating is where possible.
Yeah.
To work with people who know what the hell they're doing.
So where do we go from here? So,
Home.
no.
No.
Is there more to talk about? Go out and collaborate with someone, you guys.
Yeah. Till next time.
Bye.
Thanks to Audio Network and Heavy Hitters for letting us use the music you can hear in this episode. All of the music was either written, produced, or performed by Jeff Megan and David Tobin.